What's happening, friends? Joker XP here with some stream highlights action for you today, straight from Diablo 3 Season 4 on PC. Today I'm going to show you some highlights from several different streams that happened over the past week using YouTube's new streaming service called YouTube Gaming, and just showing you some of the fun moments, some of the more memorable experiences that I had meeting the many different players from across the community throughout this week. Now, all the gameplay you're going to see will be of the new Seasonal Monk using the new Uliana's 6-piece set and my overall progress with that build. Now let's talk Season 4. How does patch 2.3 feel? How do these new changes affect the end game experience? So the big change that players ask me about on a daily basis is about Kanai's cube. This item definitely changes everything, as in the potential for endgame builds now has gotten that much more intricate. Now, it's not like an instant god mode thing. I mean, you don't become this ridiculously OP game-breaking character by using the cube, but it does expand your build options. And in fact, I'd say that the new Uliana's monk build could not truly exist in its current form without Kanai's cube. So let me just briefly give you a basic rundown of how Kanai's cube works and really how it affects your endgame build. Now, we're not going to break down every single recipe and every single feature of the cube, but I'm just going to tell you guys what you need to know about the cube that's most important, and hopefully this will clarify a little bit more to those of you players out there who've been asking me about the cube in the live streams. Kanai's cube allows you to add 3 legendary powers to your endgame build. You can choose 1 power from a legendary weapon, 1 from a legendary armor piece, and 1 from a legendary jewelry piece. And that's it. You can't stack any more legendary powers on top of that, and you are limited to only choosing 1 item at a time per slot class. So once again, that's 1 weapon, 1 armor piece, 1 jewelry piece. When you extract a legendary power, that power will automatically roll at its maximum stat. So for example, let's say that you had a furnace, and let's say that the legendary roll on this particular furnace rolls at a 40% bonus damage to all elites. If you decide to extract that power into Kanai's cube, that power will be extracted at its maximum stat, which in that case would be 50% bonus damage to elites. The catch is that when you extract a power, you permanently lose that weapon or that item that you extracted from. So you are permanently getting rid of that specific furnace in this hypothetical scenario. But as you probably already seen, the potential of this is awesome. I mean, think about it. If you can stack a furnace with bonus 50% damage against elites on top of whatever legendary weapons you're using or specific two-handed weapon you're using, the potential is plain sick. Alright, this is the basic idea of how the Uliana's Seasonal Monk with a 6-piece set works, by stacking the legendary power from the Flow of Eternity weapon on top of the weapons you're going to be using with this particular build. Now, I'll talk about the monk here in a moment, but let's continue just breaking down a little bit about the process of extracting powers and what that all entails here in Season 4. Now, the process for extracting legendary powers from these items is somewhat simple in the sense of you need to get certain materials which are specific to every act in the game, and you combine those materials with whatever legendary item you're trying to extract from, and that's how you extract the power. The catch is that there's a new, somewhat tedious process of gaining these materials. That's because every act now has act-specific materials that you can only gain by getting the Heradric cache from every act, which means you have to farm bounties for Heradric caches on acts 1 through 5. And you'll have to do this on a pretty regular basis in your end game until you have truly immaculate gear. Now, the cube has some pretty sweet other abilities. I'm not going to talk in detail about all of those here, but I'll just say that this cube definitely transforms things. It really shakes up the landscape of what we know to be endgame builds and how we approach climbing seasonal ladders in greater rifts and how all of that works. So now let's talk Seasonal Monk. How does the Uliana set feel? What does the Seasonal Monk's play style feel like, especially compared to the R6 Dashing Strike Monk that we had in Season 3? I believe that the Uliana's Monk is a fantastic build, definitely a top tier build for greater rifting, and it's not just revolving around spamming one specific attack. It correlates between using your Spirit Generator, 7-sided Strike, and then Exploding Palm. Then you use Dashing Strike combined with Mantra of Salvation Agility to create this awesome evasive type tactic to get yourself out of pretty sticky situations in the higher greater rifts with crazy mobs, especially when you get rooms that are like, say, full of Mallet Lords and just ridiculous OP packs of enemies. Now, one thing to note, guys, about the U6 Monk is that there are multiple versions of this build. So the version I'm using here is the non-crit chance version, where we throw Broken Promises into Kanai's cube and we rely 100% on Broken Promises proccing itself. So the advantage here is that it's all about cooldown reduction. As you can see here, my 7-sided strike, my epiphanies have insane cooldown. That's because I'm sitting at just over 60% cooldown reduction. The other version that I've seen is the crit chance build, where you actually do roll critical hit chance into your gear. The great advantage there is that your base damage is significantly increased, so you do damage like crazy at the expense of less cooldown reduction. So right now I've been testing the non-crit chance build with Broken Promises, and it's been going great. Once I see just where this build tops out in terms of solo Greater Rifts, then I'll probably switch it up and do a little experimenting, maybe throwing in some Sun Wuko's set or some other gear sets in there. So if there's any great takeaway about the Monk in Season 4, it is simply this, that the Monk is much more involved with the play style. Now, this means that the gameplay experience is definitely best suited and most rewarding to the player that carefully uses the skills at the right time, as opposed to just spamming every key and just going crazy. Carefully timing when you use certain skills, like for example, carefully timing starting an attack using first your Spirit Generators, and then switching to 7-sided strike, and then proccing your Exploding Palms by doing so, followed by evading very rough spots, will definitely show you the results that I'm talking about. It's a little bit more of a variety from what we've seen before, like say the R6 Dash Monk from Season 3. As you see here, I'm using my Dash Monk to play Greater Rift 50 here in patch 2.3, and I mean, it's a great build. Like, I'm not bashing the R6 Dash Monk build, but this build, like many others in the game, revolves around supporting one attack, which is Dashing Strike, and only that one attack. So you spam that attack, you get maximum uptime with complete max cooldown reduction, and you end up having a basically beast mode build that revolves around one attack. In this season, it's a little bit more involved, and it kind of expands the gameplay style. So I like that. I think that's great. I think that's a good step in the right direction. And I highly encourage you to check it out if you haven't already started a character for Season 4, or if you're just kind of bored with the class that you chose this season. Definitely check out the Monk and give it a ride. Now, from a distance, I will say that what I've noticed about other classes this season is that the Witch Doctor, man, that Witch Doctor is OP as hell, man. That's a great option to use this season. I've been noticing how awesome the Witch Doctor builds have been going, and I am very curious. Like, that's definitely the next class that I'm going to go try out in Season 4. The Witch Doctor seems like a fantastic option for an offensive style of play, but that also has great survivability, and that's very fast, as in literally the movement speed is just really fast. So for speed running, for doing speed T10 rifts, and definitely for pushing up into the higher Greater Rift leaderboards, I think the Witch Doctor is money in the bank. Now, the Barbarian is still a sick choice for the very brutal in-your-face playstyle. Barbarians are still great for the player who just wants a playstyle where you literally just plow through everything and wreak havoc. And it's definitely a sick alternative for tanking compared to using the Monk. One notable thing that I've seen this season with respect to the Crusaders is that the new seasonal Seeker of the Light 6-piece set for the Crusader is just plain badass. Since now Blessed Hammer and Falling Sword have gotten some nice buffs and nice abilities to work with each other, and that's allowed the Crusader to actually come out into a more offensive oriented style of play. So it's safe to say that the Crusader class in Season 4 has received some very much needed love. Regarding the ranged styles of gameplay and more tactical approaches to gameplay, the Wizard definitely outshines the Demon Hunter in this season. I think that the Veer's amazing Arcana set is just far superior right now in its present builds, and you'll see in the 4-player Greater Rift leaderboards that Wizards are definitely more populated as of right now, where the Demon Hunter seems to be left behind a little bit. And no, I'm not saying that the Demon Hunter is a nerfed class this time around, no, but I am making the observation that it looks to me as of right now that the Wizard outperforms the Demon Hunter for all things ranged and all things tactical. And that's fine because the Demon Hunter has had plenty of glory days of dominance in previous seasons. Now, to sum all this up with the classes, I still think that the Monk is one of the best options for tanking in the game. As of right now, the #1 player in solo Greater Rift leaderboards is held by the Monk across all classes. And finally, my last takeaway is that I'm very thankful that in Season 4, there is no game-breaking bug or exploit or glitch. Quite frankly, Season 3 started out a bit rough and was almost ruined by that Blood Shard exploit that allowed people to amass tons and tons of blood shards at a far greater value than allowed in game. And of course that resulted in several top people in the community, including some Twitch streamers, being banned permanently from Diablo 3 for using that exploit. If we go back a year, when patch 2.1 first launched and we had Season 1's first rollout, there was the very famous Paragon leveling exploit that allowed you, in essence, to power level many Paragon levels in a very short span of time, and that was the result of incorrect scaling happening within the Greater Rifts, as it was the first time we had Greater Rifts in Diablo 3. So I will say it again, I'm very thankful to Blizzard that this time around they released patch 2.3 in Season 4 that was somewhat more stable in the sense of no game-breaking glitches or exploits, no game-breaking mechanics that would in essence threaten the competitive aspect, if you want to call it that, in this PvE experience in Diablo 3. In a nutshell, guys, those are my general takeaways from Season 4 so far. Now, I know we're just a week in to the new season, and I'm sure things are going to change and evolve steadily, as they always do every season. Before I go, I do want to give a shout-out to the many different viewers who stopped by in these streams over the past few days. Those of you who not only stopped by, but who had some really awesome, really engaging questions about Diablo 3's Season 4, you guys have been badass, and I greatly appreciate your time. As I know YouTube gaming is still a very new streaming service, obviously it's not going to explode and completely dominate Twitch, as Twitch has been well established. Nonetheless, I do appreciate those of you who stopped by and at least gave the stream a chance. And as for all of you viewers here today, thank you all for hanging out, hearing out my thoughts, as I do greatly appreciate your time as well. And know that I will be continuing my streams, experimenting a little bit here in YouTube gaming, as well as with my seasonal monk here in Diablo Season 4. If you enjoyed this video today, then you know what to do. Smack that like button down below right in the face. For those of you with seasonal characters here in Diablo 3, I wish you all the best of luck. I hope that the RNG treats you a little bit more generously than it has me in this first week. Cheers to all of you, and I'll see you soon.